The Serapeum is the place where the sacred Apis bulls were buried, reigning at one particular time. But when it died, and then the dead bull would be interred here in one of these sarcophagi.
When Egypt has finally yielded one of its most haunting secrets, and what's been uncovered is nothing short of astonishing. Deep beneath the sands lies a mystery that has confounded historians and engineers for generations. Massive granite boxes so precisely crafted that even modern technology struggles to explain them. Hidden within the Serapeum of Saqqara, these colossal structures seem to echo the presence of a lost chapter in human history. Recent findings are now shedding light on their possible purpose, igniting global fascination and unsettling questions. Were these creations truly the work of ancient humans alone, or something far beyond what we understand? Join us as we plunge into one of the most pulse-pounding enigmas of ancient Egypt. Saqqara's granite giants, the Serapeum's granite boxes, stand among the most baffling artifacts ever discovered from ancient Egypt. Their sheer size is staggering, but it's the precision behind their construction that truly demands attention. Beneath the Saqqara plateau lies a vast underground complex, carved directly into solid bedrock, an immense labyrinth stretching nearly a fifth of a mile. Within these silent quarters rest 24 enormous granite boxes, each carved from a single solid block of stone. Their surfaces are polished to near perfection, with edges so exact that deviations measure less than a fraction of a millimeter. This level of accuracy isn't just impressive, it's unsettling. Even more astonishing is their origin. Many of these blocks were quarried in Aswan, over 500 miles away, then transported across harsh terrain without modern machinery. Each box weighs between 70 and 100 tons. Somehow, these massive structures were not only moved, but carefully installed inside narrow underground chambers, corridors that are visibly smaller than the boxes themselves. The only logical conclusion is startling. The boxes must have been placed first, before the tunnels were fully carved around them. This would require extraordinary foresight, planning, and engineering precision, capabilities that far exceed what we typically attribute to a civilization limited to copper chisels, bronze tools, and manual labor. The boxes themselves are almost eerily plain. Their black granite walls rise more than 11 feet high. Inside, the chambers are perfectly squared, with corners forming flawless 90-degree angles. The geometry is so precise that even with today's diamond-tipped drills and computer-guided cutting machines, modern engineers admit replicating such work would be a formidable challenge. Yet there they sit, deep beneath Saqqara, silent monuments to a level of craftsmanship that seems utterly out of place in the era to which they're assigned. When French archaeologist Auguste Ferdinand Mariette first encountered the Serapeum in 1850, the discovery unfolded quietly. It began with a subtle clue, a line of half-buried sphinxes stretching across the desert. Following this silent procession led him to a hidden shaft descending into darkness. Unlike the pyramids towering above ground, there were no hieroglyphs announcing royal glory, no inscriptions claiming ownership, no ceremonial artwork lining the walls. What awaited below was stark, sealed, and strangely undecorated. Inside the Serapeum, the mystery only deepened. Archaeologists have traditionally identified these massive boxes as sarcophagi for the Apis bulls, sacred animals believed to embody the god Ptah. Yet when this explanation is weighed against the evidence, it begins to feel deeply unsatisfying. The sheer effort required to quarry, transport, and precisely carve these enormous stone containers seems wildly disproportionate to the burial of even the most revered animals. The doubts only grow stronger when the lids are opened. Nearly all of the boxes were found empty. No bulls, no ceremonial objects, no inscriptions, carvings, or hieroglyphs offering even a hint of their intended purpose. The few remains that were discovered were later analyzed and dated to centuries after the boxes themselves had been constructed, as if later generations tried to impose meaning onto structures they did not originally create or understand. Some chambers reveal signs of abandonment. There are boxes left unfinished, their edges chipped or unpolished. One colossal container sits awkwardly wedged in a passageway, seemingly frozen mid-transport, as though a critical operation was abruptly halted. The scene feels less like a completed sacred complex and more like a project suddenly interrupted, leaving behind massive relics with no clear function. Even Auguste Mariette, the archaeologist who first explored the Serapeum, remarked on the unsettling atmosphere within its tunnels. He described an oppressive silence, air so heavy it felt as though the stone itself pressed inward. Modern visitors report the same sensation. It is not simply quiet, it feels unnatural, a stillness that clings like the echo of a long-buried secret. And the deeper one investigates the Serapeum, the more contradictions emerge. What if these silent chambers are guarding answers humanity was never meant to uncover? Stay with us, because what comes next may challenge everything you think you know. The Serapeum, dating and origins. Mainstream archaeological explanations only deepen the mystery. The accepted dating of the granite boxes is not based on their extraordinary engineering, but on a handful of crude hieroglyphs scratched onto a few of them. Egyptologists date these markings to around 3000 BC, and by association, assign the same age to the boxes themselves. But under closer scrutiny, this reasoning begins to unravel. The hieroglyphs are rough and poorly executed, standing in stark contrast to the flawless, mirror-like polish of the granite. The stonework reflects breathtaking precision and mastery, while the inscriptions look hurried, almost like graffiti. It is difficult to believe that the same artisans, capable of achieving such geometric perfection, would allow their work to be marked by carvings so careless and unsophisticated. This striking mismatch has led some researchers to propose a provocative possibility. The boxes and the inscriptions may not originate from the same time period, or even the same civilization. If that is the case, the hieroglyphs could represent a later attempt to claim or reinterpret structures that an earlier culture built but left behind, their true purpose long forgotten. The mathematical precision of the Serapeum boxes tells a story in all its own. Their tolerances, measured in thousandths of an inch, belong to a level of engineering that feels worlds apart from the crude, uneven symbols scratched onto their surfaces. That contrast alone raises serious questions, but the mystery deepens even further when the origin of the stone itself is examined. Geological analysis reveals that several of the boxes were not made from granite quarried near Saqqara at all. Instead, the stone came from Egypt's eastern desert, nearly 800 miles away. Unlike Aswan, this region had no river route connecting it to Saqqara. Transporting blocks weighing more than 200 tons across rugged mountains and barren desert without modern machinery pushes the limits of plausibility. Even imagining massive teams dragging such weights on wooden sledges feels inadequate. Other boxes are traced back to Aswan, roughly 500 miles south. While the Nile offers a possible transport route, the scale of the challenge remains staggering. The raw granite block needed to carve a single box would have weighed more than twice the final product, often exceeding 200 tons. How such an object could be loaded onto ancient vessels, stabilized against strong currents, and carried upriver without destroying the boats or capsizing them entirely remains unexplained. Even after being reduced to their final form, the boxes, still weighing between 70 and 100 tons, would have posed an immense logistical problem. Modern engineers liken the task to moving the cornerstone of a skyscraper using nothing but ropes and human strength. And transportation is only part of the puzzle. Installation may be even harder to explain. These monoliths were lowered into narrow underground chambers and aligned with extraordinary precision. Their walls slot perfectly into carved recesses, as if every step had been planned long before the tunnels were finished. The level of foresight required suggests a mastery of engineering that clashes sharply with what is officially believed about ancient tools and techniques. Every detail, the mirror-polished interiors, the distant origin of the granite, the flawless geometry, widens the gap between conventional explanations and the physical evidence. Instead of resolving the mystery, each answer seems to create new questions, leaving the Serapeum boxes suspended somewhere between accepted history and something far more elusive. And what comes next only deepens that uncertainty. The impossible labor of granite Egyptologists often describes scenes of workers hauling massive stones on wooden sledges, pouring water or sand beneath them to reduce friction. On paper, it sounds reasonable, but when applied to the Serapeum boxes, the explanation begins to collapse. These were not manageable stones that could be nudged forward through coordinated effort. Each box weighed between 70 and 100 tons. Their sheer bulk causes traditional explanations to buckle under their own weight. One abandoned box inside the Serapeum tells this story vividly. It sits wedged in the middle of a tunnel with no trace of the wooden sledges supposedly used to move it. Even if hundreds of men had been present, their combined strength would barely shift it. Worse still, the tunnels themselves are often only a couple of feet wider than the boxes. There would have been no space for large teams to stand shoulder to shoulder. The geometry of the site simply does not support the traditional narrative. Then there is the question of how the boxes were finished. Some remain incomplete, their lids never placed. One massive slab lies abandoned at the entrance of a tunnel, as though work stopped suddenly. An unfinished box reveals something even more surprising. The granite was hauled underground before being fully shaped and polished. Imagine the conditions. Tight alcoves with barely a foot of clearance. Granite dust thick in the air. Little to no ventilation. Darkness broken only by torchlight. And within this suffocating environment, ancient craftsmen are said to have produced mirror-smooth surfaces and flawless geometry, results that rival modern laser-guided machinery. The contradiction is profound, and it invites a comparison with how similar work is done today. The modern approach. Modern industry does not underestimate granite. Today, extracting it requires explosives to fracture the bedrock and massive cranes to lift the stone from quarries. Shaping the granite involves enormous saws operating under hydraulic pressure, each blade tipped with industrial diamonds. Even with this technology, most modern companies avoid working with single blocks of this size. The weight, risk, and logistics make them impractical. If engineers were tasked with building a Serapeum box today, the process would be daunting. They would begin by quarrying a monolithic block weighing well over 200 tons, since carving a finished 70 to 100-ton box requires removing vast amounts of material. Transporting such a block hundreds of miles would demand specialized trailers, reinforced roads, and powerful cranes, even with 21st century technology. Once delivered, advanced drilling equipment would hollow the interior. Precision measurement tools would guide the work, while industrial polishing machines would smooth the surfaces until they resembled glass. Producing a matching lid would add yet another layer of complexity. And only then would engineers face the final challenge, lowering the finished structure into an underground chamber, a task requiring steel gantries, reinforced supports, and months of meticulous planning. For these reasons, modern engineers admit they would never attempt such a project the way it was done in ancient times. Today's practical solution would be to construct the box from 6 perfectly cut granite slabs, fitted together to mimic a monolith. It would be safer, faster, and far more efficient. Yet inside the Serapeum of Saqqara, that is not what we see. These are not assembled panels. They are indivisible monoliths, each carved from a single block, transported across vast distances, and polished to perfection thousands of years ago, using methods we still cannot explain. And perhaps the greatest mystery isn't how they were built, but what they were meant to protect. Let's uncover that secret next. The perfection within the stone. A single look at the Serapeum boxes is enough to unsettle logic itself. Their size, their finish, their astonishing precision. None of it feels consistent with a civilization limited to copper chisels and stone hammers. Hollowing out granite blocks of this scale should have resulted in uneven walls, visible flaws, and structural weakness. Instead, what stands beneath Saqqara tells a very different story. The walls of these boxes are uniformly thick, measured with remarkable consistency. Their interiors gleam as if light has been sealed inside polished stone. Even after centuries of neglect, and despite cracks caused by looters, the surfaces still reflect like glass, refusing to dull with time. The mystery deepens when researchers examine the physical traces left behind. In several cases, hardened droplets of an unknown residue have been found at the base of the lids. Some believe this could be evidence of a lost chemical process used to achieve the mirror-like finish. According to conventional history, ancient stoneworkers had no access to advanced abrasives or chemical polishing techniques. Yet the evidence suggests otherwise. If this interpretation is correct, it would mean their understanding of materials went far beyond simple hammering and grinding. And that raises a troubling question. Why invest such extraordinary effort into the interior of a granite box, supposedly meant only to house animal remains? Every corner is sharply defined. Every surface is refined to near mathematical perfection. This feels less like a coffin and more like a carefully engineered device. When this craftsmanship is compared with the methods traditionally attributed to its creation, the contradictions multiply. To accept the mainstream explanation, we must imagine ancient workers quarrying granite blocks, weighing over 200 tons from Aswan or the eastern desert, dragging them hundreds of miles to Saqqara, then shaping them by hand into forms so precise that modern engineers struggle to replicate them. The geometry alone challenges belief. Flat surfaces remain flawless when tested with straight edges. Interior corners meet at perfect right angles, sharp enough to cut light. Not a single fracture mars these immense stones. Granite is one of the hardest materials on Earth. Strike it repeatedly with stone tools, and it shatters. Scrape it with chisels, and progress slows to a crawl. Achieving this level of finish would require lifetimes. Even today, with laser levels, diamond-tipped saws, and heavy machinery, hollowing a single 100-ton granite block would take teams of specialists months, inside controlled environments, using an equipment worth millions. And even then, engineers admit the simplest solution would be to assemble such a box from multiple slabs rather than carve it from a single monolith. Yet in the Serapeum, that is not what we find. These boxes are indivisible, each carved from a single block in an age that supposedly lacked machinery altogether. This is where intent collides with execution. If these were merely coffins for sacred bulls, why make them so enormous and exact? Some measure over 13 feet long and more than 6 feet wide. Was this meant to provide comfort in the afterlife? That seems unlikely, especially when other Apis bulls were buried in far simpler wooden sarcophagi. Even pharaohs themselves were not granted such spacious tombs. Their coffins often left barely enough room for the body. The logic collapses. The precision of these boxes suggests purpose, but a purpose still hidden. Some engineers note that the tolerances approach modern aerospace standards, where even millimeters matter. Shine a light inside and it reflects back like polished steel. Place a level along the edge and it doesn't waver. These were not rushed constructions. They were deliberate, meticulous. Which brings us to the central mystery. It isn't just how these boxes were made, it's why. Why bury such perfection deep underground where no one could admire it? Why leave some boxes empty? Why carve tunnels that appear to have been finished after the boxes were already in place? The questions swirl endlessly, like dust suspended in the stale air of the Serapeum. The more closely we look, the less the answers align with common sense, raising the possibility that these structures served a purpose far greater than burial, perhaps tied to a knowledge system long lost to history. And then another question emerges from the darkness. Why granite? Why use granite? Of all the materials available to ancient builders, why choose granite, the hardest, heaviest, and most difficult stone to work with, when limestone lay abundantly at their feet? The Serapeum boxes sit deep underground, protected from wind, rain, and sunlight. Durability alone cannot explain the choice. Limestone would have been easier to quarry, easier to shape, and vastly easier to transport. It had already been used for countless monuments across Egypt. Yet the builders deliberately chose granite, hauling it from quarries hundreds of miles away. This decision suggests intention beyond practicality. Granite is non-porous, allowing the boxes to be sealed almost airtight once the lids were placed. More intriguing still is its high quartz content. Quartz is known to generate electrical charges when subjected to pressure or stress. Russian cosmonaut Konstantin Borisov, who studied Egyptian megaliths, proposed that granite's properties may have been deliberately exploited. In theory, these boxes may have functioned less like coffins and more like devices, resonant chambers, or even energy storage systems hidden beneath the sands. Some researchers speculate that under sufficient stress, the granite could have generated electrical effects strong enough to ionize the surrounding air, producing a faint glow. This idea gains traction when we consider another anomaly. The Serapeum tunnels lack soot marks or burn residue. Unlike other underground Egyptian sites, there is little evidence of torchlight. Could the stones themselves have provided illumination? Granite was not just harder to obtain, it was exponentially more difficult to carve, transport, and hollow. And yet it was chosen deliberately, hinting at a function we are only beginning to glimpse. But if the choice of granite was intentional, the mystery deepens even further. The purpose of the sarcophagi boxes. Consider the lids. Each weighs nearly 30 tons. But early 19th century drawings reveal something even stranger. Additional stone blocks deliberately stacked on top of them. If these were merely sarcophagi, why add more weight? The lids alone were already immovable. Bulls do not escape coffins. The only logical explanation is pressure. The extra mass suggests an intentional effort to amplify the seal. To trap something inside, but then, this raises a disturbing possibility. These boxes may not have been tombs at all, but pressure chambers, designed to contain volatile processes. In this light, Borisov's theory takes on new meaning. With non-porous granite walls and perfectly fitted lids, these boxes could have held gases under extreme pressure. Suddenly, the Serapeum looks less like a necropolis and more like a buried laboratory. And here, the mystery intersects with a larger question. Egyptologists describe unimaginable labor, hundreds of workers maneuvering 100-ton granite blocks through narrow tunnels, aligning them with flawless precision, 24 times over. To believe all of this effort was expended merely to bury bull strains' credibility. The scale, the precision, and the determination point towards something far more significant, something woven deeply into the fabric of the civilization itself. And perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not what the sarcophagi boxes were used for, but why the knowledge behind them disappeared. Engineers like Christopher Dunn have intensified the debate by proposing that the Great Pyramid was not a tomb, but a machine designed to generate energy. If that idea holds even partial truth, then the sarcophagi boxes may represent something similar, massive stone batteries rather than burial containers. Granite's high quartz content, capable of producing electrical charge under stress, gives this theory unexpected scientific grounding. This perspective overlaps with researchers like Graham Hancock, who suggest that such monuments could be remnants of a far older, advanced civilization, one erased by a global catastrophe remembered across cultures as the Great Flood. If so, dynastic Egyptians may not have been the original builders, but inheritors of structures they could not replicate and only partially understood. That possibility helps explain the contradictions. Flawless granite precision paired with crude hieroglyphs, airtight chambers described as simple tombs, and engineering feats that even modern tools struggle to match. Perhaps the Egyptians adapted these mysterious boxes for ritual use, repurposing ancient technology as sacred tradition. If true, the sarcophagi boxes are not coffins for bulls, but fragments of a forgotten chapter in human history, evidence of lost knowledge, vanished engineering, and a past far more complex than we are taught. And that leaves one final question. Were these structures symbols of belief or machines whose purpose we have yet to rediscover? Let us know what you think.